Welcome back to Peerless Martial God. Enjoy. Chapter 12. Lin Feng's Spirit. In the city of Yangzhou was the Lin's family house. Lin Hai was sitting alone in one of the rooms, longingly staring at a portrait on the wall. It was the portrait of an extremely beautiful woman. Her eyes were a deep blue like a calm ocean. Shockingly, there was a ferocious beast which was wrapped around her shoulders. It looked like a snake, but that was not the impression it would give. It held its head high, looking down at everything as if an ancient god looking down at the insignificant creatures below. Its eyes from this portrait alone would burn deeply into your soul and leave a lasting impression. Meng He, it looks like little Lin Feng has finally become an adult. I see more of you inside him every day, and he even inherited your spirit. Maybe he doesn't know what this spirit means, but by the time his spirit awakens, he will see how great a gift his mother has given him. The day will come when that useless snake spirit will shake the world. Our son was never trash, he always had the potential for true greatness hidden inside of him. Lin Hai, standing in front of the portrait, murmured to himself with an expression full of love and also a strange sadness. They all think that I have lost my memory, but I could never forget you in my lifetime. When Lin Feng's spirit awakens, I will tell him everything. Soon he will enter the empire and follow his destined path. Lin Hai's eyes showed a strong emotion welling up inside him. He once had doubts that his son would ever be able to awaken the spirit. His son was not ordinary, and now he could finally see him unlocking the potential which lay hidden inside his body. Lin Hai was convinced Lin Feng's spirit would awaken shortly. Lin Feng naturally didn't know the secret hidden by his parents. He had no memories of his mother. Lin Hai had never told Lin Feng anything about his snake spirit. Lin Feng had crippled Lin Heng's cultivation, which made him feel relieved, as if a weight in his heart had been lifted. It meant that the last of old Lin Feng's regrets before his death had vanished. He had finally gotten his revenge. Lin Feng wasn't going to leave immediately when he could practice and gain some more experience in the Stormy Gorge. Every person that came into the Stormy Gorge did it with the sole purpose of fighting to become stronger. Even if he didn't take the initiative to go and provoke others, he was convinced others would come to fight him. "It's you," said a cold and detached voice. Lin Feng looked around looking for the voice and saw a beautiful female body. Every curve seemed to be imprinted in his memories. Even though he couldn't see the face, the silhouette was enchanting. Lin Feng had some doubts as the girl was wearing a mask to hide her identity. He didn't know many people in the Yun Hai sect. He knew Han Man, Qing Yi as well as Jing Yun. That person obviously couldn't be any of them. Could it be someone he knew as the old Lin Feng? Lin Feng was confused. "Last time we met you ran away at such speed that even I couldn't follow. Shall we test how good your escape skills are now we are out in the open with nowhere to run?" said the girl in front of him, laughing coldly. The girl took an arrow from her quiver and grabbed the bow which was strapped on her back. Lin Feng immediately knew why he had recognized her. He remembered everything. She was Lu Fei, the girl from the hot spring in the mountains. Lin Feng firmly remembered her name because Lu Fei's arrow filled with killing intent had nearly ended his life on their last encounter. She was not going to give him a chance to escape. She knew he was hiding his power before, so she immediately used her spirit. Lin Feng could feel that her spirit was targeting him, and he was slowly being locked as its target. The bow is the weapon of choice for long-range fighters, however the bow has no ability in close-quarters combat. If I close the distance between us, it will be harder for her weapon to show its true potential, thought Lin Feng. He had absolutely no hesitation and dashed towards Lu Fei with a shocking speed. "You really want to face me in close combat?" said Lu Fei, laughing sarcastically. She pulled the arrow, and in an instant it shot from the bow. The arrow created an incredible pressure accompanied with a hissing sound. The bowstring was still shaking with a buzzing sound. Lin Feng unsheathed the sword from his back. 9 heavy waves. Roaring thunder. 9 heavy waves was pouring out from Lin Feng's left hand and shooting outwards. The power of the arrow weakened with each wave that it collided with. Then, as the combined power of 9 heavy waves and roaring thunder struck, the arrow lifelessly cracked in two and fell onto the ground. Moonlight feather agility. His body didn't stop for even a fraction of a second. He kept moving closer while using his 9 heavy waves technique to disrupt the air around him. His moonlight feather agility technique was extremely smooth, as if he had already used it a million times before. Lu Fei did not only have a beautiful face, but she also had a powerful combat strength. She was the 8th on the list of disciple rankings. She knew Lin Feng wanted to close the distance, so she had jumped back immediately after having shot her arrow. She was an expert at fighting with a bow, and she had clearly learned some excellent movement skills. By the time Lin Feng had broken the first arrow into 2, her hand was already charging her bow with tremendous amounts of qi, but this time, with 3 arrows knocked in place. "Goodbye," said Lin Feng, who was running at an incredible speed. He then suddenly changed destination and jumped towards a small grove of trees. Lu Fei's movement technique was extremely profound. Lin Feng's technique, however, was only a hair better than Lu Fei's technique. Even though he could get close, it required time. During this short time, it was enough for Lu Fei to shoot a few arrows. She had just attempted to shoot 3 arrows at once, and with 3 arrows shot from her bow, Lin Feng could feel the immediate threat to his life. Which is why the moment Lin Feng saw that she was putting 3 arrows into her bow, he had quickly changed his plan and decided to escape from sight. That was the best way to hinder Lu Fei's fighting strategy. Also, when fighting on an open area, the distance between them was vast. However, in this grove of trees she would need a line of sight to target him. Lu Fei, using her arrow spirit, was definitely able to bring out her maximum fighting potential on an open plain. Looks like I have underestimated the power of a cultivator who has reached the 9th chi layer. It's not that easy to fight against and win, Lin Feng thought, feeling gloomy. He hadn't known that Lu Fei had reached the 9th chi layer, which was the highest chi layer before advancement. She was already able to control her arrow spirit and her bow harmoniously using her chi. Her long-range power was nightmarish. His previous thoughts of fighting with 9th chi layer disciples and easily winning were immediately extinguished. But Lin Feng didn't get discouraged. He was convinced that if he managed to make Lu Fei enter the grove of trees, then the victory would be his. Laughed Lu Fei ironically behind him. She started pulling on the bowstring, which emitted a powerful pressure as it was pulled back farther and farther. An intense and dreadful sensation spread throughout his body. Lin Feng understood Lu Fei was about to shoot and his body was warning him of the danger. Lin Feng held his sword tightly in his hand. He needed only 2 breaths to reach the grove of trees and he would be safe. "Where are you running?" said Lu Fei in a slightly panicked tone. A sword had suddenly come into vision, which shocked Lin Feng. He could sense that he was in great danger. He was dashing forward with all his strength when suddenly he stopped and then jumped back. Boom! Broken earth flew all around. There was an explosion in front of Lin Feng and an extremely deep sword mark had appeared, leaving a crater in the ground. If Lin Feng had continued to walk towards the grove and been even a second late, then that sword would have cut Lin Feng's body apart. Lin Feng's expression changed as he saw a man in the grove that was wearing white robes and holding a long sword in his hand. A moment ago it had been his sword which had created the mark in the ground. "Lu Fei, how has that bug offended you? Do you want me to help you kill this bug?" The disciple standing in the grove was disdainfully looking at Lin Feng and appeared to be someone who thought very highly of themselves. In his eyes, Lin Feng was an ant and he would kill him without hesitation. Lu Fei just had to nod and give him the signal to act. He would kill Lin Feng immediately if she asked him to do so. Even if the sect prohibited killing fellow disciples directly, there would be no reason for them to punish him because he had a high status above those bugs, making him untouchable. One of the sect's elite disciples, Lin Feng, saw the badge on the man's clothes. Lin Feng was trembling with fear and felt like time itself had frozen. If Lu Fei asked him to attack Lin Feng, then he would do it. Lin Feng would need to dodge at his highest speed or he would be beheaded immediately. "You Hao, stop interfering with other people's business," Lu Fei said, but she hadn't shot her arrow. It is not that she was showing mercy to Lin Feng or had forgiven him, it was only because Yu Hao was courting her, but she had absolutely no interest in him. So she hadn't asked him for help, because she didn't want to owe anything to Yu Hao, and using this moment to kill Lin Feng would indebt her to Yu Hao. She recalled her spirit back into her body and put her bow back onto her back. She said to Lin Feng, "Consider yourself lucky this time. Next time the best thing you can do is not to run into me, otherwise you will not be as lucky as today." When she finished talking, she turned around and walked into the distance. "Lu Fei, why do you always leave immediately?" said Yu Hao, shaking his head, then immediately shot into the distance, not even giving a look at Lin Feng. Boom! Another explosion sound rung out in front of Lin Feng and a very deep sword mark was left in the ground. "Consider yourself a lucky bug. Next time I see you provoking Lu Fei, I will have to crush you," said Yu Hao, whose voice came from a distant place. Lin Feng was still standing in the same place, not moving in the slightest. Even though the sword had caused an explosion of power in front of him, he for some reason was not scared. Lu Fei thought she was extremely strong, and because Lin Feng dared to come into the hot spring where she trains to provoke her, she wanted to kill him. Yu Hao was an elite disciple and his strength was extremely powerful. He had no reason or malice towards Lin Feng, but was also about to kill him without speaking a word to him. Lin Feng had been in this world for a short time, but Lin Feng had understood and learned from experience in what it meant to be strong, to be respected, to be ruthless. "Yu Hao, when I reach the Ling Chi layer, you will look into this bug's eyes as I take the sword from your hand and then drive it into your heart." Lin Feng saw the extremely deep marks left by the sword in the ground and a ray of light flashed through his mind, right after he turned around and left the place. He was convinced that someday his hard work and innate gifts would make him strong enough to take his revenge, and he believed that day would not be far away. End of chapter 12. Hope you guys enjoy the chapter. Please consider subscribing and hit that bell button for future updates.